After I created my last video of the evening on how to tell if you've been or being radicalized by the alt-right, I had some gumbo and watched some Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. The Good Place. Yeah, it was Netflix. Which is a really, really good show if you've never seen it. It last aired January of 2020, so this is right before the pandemic. And I wanted to get a read from some reviews as to the series finale, which, if you haven't seen it yet, was kind of controversial, and some people didn't like it, based off of its premise more than anything else. But so I was reading some reviews, and I found this really good article on NPR. I'll link the description below, by Linda Holmes, written on January 31st, 2020. So right before the pandemic. And in her piece, Linda wrote, a creator, Michael Shore, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who also was behind Parks and Recreation, has a kind of grudging, aggravated optimism that echoes in a lot of his work. Continuing on, The Good Place was full of reminders of how petty and nasty people can be when they're not specifically trying to discipline their worst instincts. Not specifically trying to discipline their worst instincts. And this was written, like I said, January of 2020. Isn't it interesting that someone was saying that people can be petty and nasty and brutish at that point before the pandemic? How bad has it gotten in comparison to that point? I think a lot of people have just forgotten common dignity, common sense. People seem to be more ignorant. As an example, I went to the grocery store the other day and someone was checking something and had their cart right there in front of the door, so no one could go and pass them. People honk more, at least where I live in Pittsburgh. They seem to be more irritated and just more disgusted, and people don't seem to have or display the same fortitude to be able to compose themselves like they used to be reserved when the moment calls for it, and just act with respect when we are afforded the opportunity. We should be showing this stuff to people every day. Did we forget how to socialize or normalize? Or did we normalize the loneliness or selfishness that many people felt during the pandemic? It's like people don't know how to treat each other anymore. And maybe that's one of the reasons why so many things just don't seem to be working as well. Prices are higher than they ever used to be. Anytime you need any service or contact an organization or a business or any medical facility, you don't get responses in a timely fashion, you don't get the service that you used to get, and it just seems like technology is doing things in society today that it hadn't done before, and with the propensity to use things like artificial intelligence. How many people are going to be losing their jobs, and what is going to replace it? I'm not saying that the advancement of technology is bad. I believe it is a good thing. I myself work in technology, both as my full-time job and here on YouTube. However, we have to consider what the impact is going to be and the consequences of any action we take, just as we would as individuals. How are we providing for those people who are going to be losing their jobs? What are we going to do for a social safety net to be able to assist these people? It's something that we have to consider anytime entire industries go under, which is a potential for any possible industry, except obviously banks, because we support them and don't let them fail. We all remember the too big to fail days, if you're old enough. People don't know how to act. Maybe part of that is because people are fearful that they won't be accepted or won't be as accepted as they used to be. Have we all developed some complex that makes us less willing to put ourselves out there because we need it more than ever before, possibly? And we are afraid of being rejected. We all need to feel that we belong, whether that's at your job, or your family, or your friends, or at an organization you belong to, or church, or synagogue, or temple, or mosque. We have to be willing to put ourselves out there, whether that's volunteer work, or whether that's protesting for climate, or civil rights, or human rights, or minority rights, or gay rights, or Latinx rights, or Mexican American rights, or Palestinian American rights, or Asian rights. We have to belong to something, and we have to support things that matter, like all those things I've just mentioned. Equality is important. We have to, if we want to really belong, we all need to be able to belong as human beings. It's part of our social network, our fabric. People can actually die if they're not around other people because of that socialization. And we're not the only species that are like that. Several other species are as well. Loneliness causes depression and can cause a multitude of other symptoms and ills, and that's a problem not only for individuals, but the people who love them and care for them, but also for the government itself. We are the government, and we are responsible for each other. We are responsible for everyone. We are all one race, and we have to recognize that. We have to end discrimination. We have to end wealth inequality. We have to be willing and able to say that everyone matters, whether they live in Trenton or Timbuktu, whether it's Pittsburgh or Paris, Los Angeles or London. We're all humans, whatever country we live in or belong to. We have a greater sense of a world humanity. We're all related. We all deserve some common dignity and respect, and some opportunity, and some kind of safety net if something happens to us or to our loved ones. We all deserve that. Once we get that, then we all truly belong to humanity, with past and present, everyone who's ever came before, and everyone who will come after. And hopefully we can mitigate climate change so that is a possibility. But when that day comes, we will all belong. We will all be more than ourselves. We will be more than the sum of all our parts, the human family. But to do that, we have to show each other a little bit of dignity, respect, forgiveness, treat others as we would want them to treat us, the golden rule. If that means we have to be more willing and cognizant to discipline those worst instincts, then we need to do that. We need to do that for others, and we have to do it for ourselves. We have to discipline ourselves. Whether you're a child or an adult, many people need this lesson. And it's not just a lesson for you, it's a lesson for all of us, including myself. We all have to discipline ourselves. Or in other words, think a little bit more before we act, and recognize when we make a mistake, so that we can learn from it, and hopefully learn from each other. We don't all have to make the same mistakes. In a world of climate change, and growing concentration of wealth, and growing poverty, and growing starvation, and growing wars, and growing hatred, we have to control this individually and as a community of nations. What other choice do we have for not only our survival, but all life on Earth, on our precious home? The timing of Michael Schur's show ending in January of 2020, right before the pandemic started, at least here in America. What would Michael write about us now if the show were still on? Michael, if you're watching this, that would be a great question. If you have the opportunity to answer, it would be appreciated. This video is part of a series called Fireside Chats, as well as a equal installment of another series called Ask a Liberal. For more information on videos like this, check out my channel, subscribe, and like on Facebook. The Renaissance Spirit. More than just a style, but a style for living, growing, learning, and thinking. Live the Renaissance Spirit. Take care.